Before Plastic Hearts fully materialized into an album, Miley was in the midst of promoting a different multi-part project that would culminate in the album She Is Miley Cyrus, which was intended for release in 2020. The first installment, 7-song EP She Is Coming, was released in May of 2019. Before She Is Miley Cyrus arrived, She Is Coming was meant to be followed by 2 more EPs, She Is Here and She Is Everything. Miley had intended for the mood of the songs and EPs to match the seasons they would have been released in, which were fall and winter respectively. And the theme of this project was supposed to be more self-discovery and self-empowerment, with Miley saying the she in the titles was referring to an alter ego of hers that was more bold and confident. However, a series of personal life changes disrupted the album's rollout, leading some to question whether Miley would make changes to the project to reflect them. In August of 2019, she separated from husband Liam Hemsworth, and months later in November, Miley underwent vocal cord surgery. So even if the albums and EPs weren't changed, they'd still be hard for Miley to perform anytime soon. And in addition to this, she'd also lost her home with Liam in a wildfire, and amongst her possessions that were lost were several songwriting journals and demos that Miley had been working on for years. On New Year's Day 2020, Miley made a post announcing, "2020 New Era Starts Now." It was a caption of a video of a highlight reel of her last decade, ending with the clip of her seemingly teasing a new song. The shirt she's wearing reads, "I am here," which seemed like a callback to the She Is Miley Cyrus promotion, so fans knew that they were getting something new but weren't quite sure whether it would be connected to that previous project just yet. Mark Ronson also posted this clip, nodding in the caption to his previous collaboration with Miley, "Nothing Breaks Like a Heart." The caption, along with the song teaser in the clip, made it pretty clear that he was still involved with whatever new music Miley was coming with, and that it might even be heartbreak focused. I think one of the most notable things from this little clip is that the song has more of a punchy rock feel to it, which lines up for Ronson, but sounded a little different from the avant-garde hip-hop influenced pop or relaxed mid-tempo tracks on She Is Coming. In early August of 2020, Miley took to social media again to tease her comeback, using a clip from her song Start All Over. She tagged the post, "She is coming, but for real this time." And days later, when Midnight Sky was released, it did indeed confirm that Miley was taking a more rock-focused direction with her upcoming album. This song combines rock, synth-pop, and disco influences to create a fresh yet familiar song about self-assurance and independence. In the opening verse, Miley asserts she's no longer tied down to anyone, and as messy as it was to get to that point, it's the best she's felt in a while. The Midnight Sky to me isn't a road at all, it's checking the other box, being open to whatever the future holds, and just trusting your intuition. A lot of this trust comes from the fact that you've made it through much worse, to the point where you're no longer as afraid of the unknown because what could be worse. Miley envisioned the Midnight Sky as like you're fucking partying and the moon is a disco ball and the stars are all the reflection of light on the ceiling. And what I really like about the disco ball is that it's a bunch of broken pieces put back together again, that when you're finally enlightened, it makes this mesmerizing, totally attractive. It's like people, you know, it's like the bugs to the light. People really love disco balls, but it's really just a bunch of broken pieces put together, so I felt like that was reflective of me. And she explained in a separate interview that the Midnight Sky was also her version of a fantasy world, and being home during lockdown had allowed Miley time to disconnect and step more into that. Aside from partying, the song is about living unapologetically in all accounts, be it in terms of career, relationships, sexuality, goals, you name it. See my lips on a mouth, everybody's talking now, baby. I'm assuming this line is a direct reference to her brief relationship with Caitlyn Carter that she'd had about a year before the song dropped. And Miley just also said that she envisioned Midnight Sky to be another pride anthem for her fans. Additionally, Midnight Sky addresses the idea of temporariness. Pretty much nothing lasts forever, and instead of seeing it as a flaw of hers, Miley celebrates always being on the move, being open to new experiences, and finding what fits. And she explained that through her divorce, which was finalized earlier in 2020, that she realized that relationships, even ones that aren't romantic, aren't necessarily a failure just because they don't last forever, as well as the inverse, something isn't successful just because it's long-lasting. She told SiriusXM, "I think we're kind of set up for devastation, in that from the time that we're little kids, we're taught to claim other humans as our best friends forever. And you just don't know who you're going to be sitting with here right now. You never know who you're going to evolve to be and who they're going to evolve to be." Midnight Sky is heavily influenced by both Debbie Harry and Stevie Nicks, the latter of whom Miley reached out to for a blessing to release this song. While I don't think it officially samples or interpolates because there's no credits for Stevie on here, because there's no credits for Stevie Nicks on Midnight Sky, Stevie Nicks' Edge of 17 is both a lyric and sonic inspiration for Midnight Sky, and it is an influence that you can hear very clearly. Miley said that she created Midnight Sky because Stevie Nicks was the type of artist and person she aspired to be, so she wanted a song that embodied that Stevie essence. Stevie was flattered and of course gave Miley her blessing, saying, "I was like, it is so cool that I had that kind of connection with Dolly Parton when we first moved to Los Angeles, and now I'm talking to her goddaughter." And Stevie is actually very excited that younger artists like Miley Cyrus and Dua Lipa wanted to sample or reference her in their work. Miley and Stevie collaborated on a remix of Midnight Sky called The Edge of Midnight, which honestly, it's more like a mashup of the two songs. It's excellent. Obviously, the songs fit together because one was inspired by the other, but you can tell just how much when they're put together, and it's evident the structure of Midnight Sky barely even has to be changed. It's really artfully done, like a musical game of tag. Midnight Sky was actually the best performing single on Plastic Hearts, peaking at number 14 on the Hot 100, and the lead single was met with overwhelmingly positive reviews. It was praised for its boldness, as well as evidence of Miley reinventing herself yet again, and positioning herself as a potential musical legend, while similarly paying homage to cemented ones. I love Midnight Sky regardless, but I wonder if it had come out in, say, 2023, whether it would have been received worse, because it coming out a few years earlier made it just ahead of that wave of very overt samples and interpolations for the sake of nostalgia that people have expressed being tired of. The music video for Midnight Sky is Miley's first self-directed video, and honestly, I was surprised to find this out just because she has so many music videos. And as many videos were during lockdown, this one is more self-contained, so Miley's the only person in the video, and the sets all seem small and intimate.
You want the lyrics to be able to stand alone
right,
without
exactly.
distraction.
Sure.
And so I kept it kind of, in a way, just very focused and let the music lead, which is why I wanted to have my microphone so it's very clear that like the music is the focus. It comes first. There's my life and my career have been really focused a lot on like gags and kitsch, and that's something that I wanted to leave behind, and I wanted to just really focus on my artistry.
One looks like she's in some neon late-night karaoke bar pouring out her soul. In other, more playful shots, she's nude in a pile of gumballs, representing her newfound freedom and happiness and playfulness because of it. It's glamorous, it's glittery, it's dreamy, and you really do get the sense that you're in someone's made-up world, which is what Miley envisioned for the song. In October of 2020, Miley confirmed the release date for Plastic Hearts and revealed the cover. She did so in an open letter to fans about how the changes in her life, like her divorce and losing her home and some of her music, did actually inspire her to change course. Part of it reads, "I began this album over 2 years ago. Thought I had it all figured out. Not just the record with its songs and sounds, but my whole fucking life. But no one checks an ego like life itself. Just when I thought the body of work was finished, it was all erased, including most of the music's relevance, because everything had changed." The letter ends, "And in triumph and gratitude, I present to you my 7th studio record, Plastic Hearts, to be released November 27th, 2020. The Plastic Hearts cover is an edited version of a photo shot by Mick Rock. Rock is known for shooting other iconic acts like David Bowie, Blondie, and Queen. In the original photo, you can see Miley's bold red lipstick standing out against her white tee, blonde mullet, and the black lettering on her shirt, as well as of her leather gloves and eye makeup. It's undoubtedly very 80s rocker inspired, which basically confirmed that the rest of the album would be rock influenced, otherwise the cover wouldn't make much sense. I like the original photo a lot, maybe even better than the version used for the album cover because you can see a lot more in details. But conceptually, the black and pink filter makes the photo look like a band poster or some flyer advertising Miley's performance at some cool underground club, so it definitely has more of a rock star vibe. Miley envisioned Plastic Hearts as being her own spin on a lot of the music she resonated with growing up, but with her own story added. Before setting out to reinterpret songs that she loved, Miley would mainly cover them, and covers had always been an important part of her discography for this reason. As Miley explained that she always found it important to keep her fans, especially the younger ones, connected to music of decades past, especially since so much of it influenced her own music. To promote Plastic Hearts ahead of the album's release, Miley did several rock covers, most notably of the Cranberries' Zombie and Blondie's Heart of Glass, both of which were included on the digital track list for Plastic Hearts. Miley's cover of Zombie is best described as mesmerizing. Her version doesn't have that haunting eeriness of the original version, but she more than makes up for it with her sharp belts that pierce right through your chest. Miley seems not just upset and stunned, as is the spirit of Zombie and its anti-war message, but also disgusted to the point of rage, really tied together by this insane electric guitar solo toward the end that Miley vocalizes over. You get chills. And in response, the Cranberries tweeted that they were delighted to hear Miley's cover, saying it was one of the finest they'd heard, and Dolores O'Riordan, the song's original singer and writer, likely would have appreciated it too. Miley covered Heart of Glass for the iHeart Festival, and the cover quickly went viral, earning Miley a lot of praise. Compared to the original, Miley's raspier tone makes the song have an angrier, more frustrated edge to it, as if she's mad at herself for falling for the antics and thinking her relationship was real. In her version, Miley sounds hardened, but also because of this, she's not so desperate for love that she'll allow herself to be tricked. Blondie's original 1979 version of Heart of Glass is a disco-influenced pop song, one that was initially intended to be full-on disco. The way Debbie performs this song, it has more of an oh well tone to it, as if you're just reflecting on your younger, sillier days now that you're able to look back and laugh because you're so much smarter now. The bounciness in the instrumental doesn't really allow you to get bogged down by the song or feel any true anger, even though the song is not a happy one. If anything, you probably just feel relief you're no longer in that space dealing with that person, rather than it reigniting any sort of anger or hurt as Miley's version does. Debbie herself said about Miley's version of Heart of Glass, "I thought she did a great job and I liked the way the performance looked, and she's a force to be reckoned with. I'm really proud of the fact that she did our song and made it uniquely hers." Blondie was also a potential inspiration specifically for the album's title. Similarities have been noted between the title of Miley's Plastic Hearts and Blondie's 1978 album Plastic Letters, which too is pop rock influenced. Miley did outright say the title for Heart of Glass inspired the title for Midnight Sky, which makes me wonder if it was also in mind for the album's title overall. Plastic Heart and Heart of Glass are both metaphors about how love and relationships are fragile, easily broken like glass, or maybe an inauthentic replication of a real thing like something made of plastic. To me, the album title Plastic Hearts represents a search for something authentic amongst a fray of emotional turmoil, relationships devolving, growing up, and life changes that make you wonder if any of the things you were so dedicated to in the past were indeed genuine. It's not the opener, but Plastic Hearts is actually second on the album's track list, and it does work perfectly as a follow-up to the opener, which is WTF Do I Know. What the fuck do I know? I'm alone, 'cause I couldn't be somebody's hero. In the song, Miley reflects on a past relationship, maybe her marriage, and how she doesn't feel a lot of the guilt and regret that she thought she would, or maybe others made her feel like she should now that it's ended. She doesn't want to apologize for not fitting into someone's mold or giving them exactly the relationship they envisioned if it required her to sacrifice her identity. I read the WTF Do I Know as a more rhetorical question. You know, the way that you typically use it when you make a sound decision that you're sticking by, even if it seems ill-informed to others. Based on the opening verse, it seems that Miley isn't only talking about romantic relationships, but also some of her past scandals with the media. Completely naked, but I'm making it fashion. Maybe getting married just to cause a distraction. The rock influence here, Miley shouting at points, you do get this rebellious spirit from it. But also because Miley's going rock with basically this whole album, you also don't get the vibe that it's a phase. WTF Do I Know also addresses that same theme of temporariness as Midnight Sky. Each chorus in the song itself ends, "Thought that it'd be you until I die, but I let go, what the fuck do I know?" Again, showing that some things simply don't last and it's not beneficial to force it. And though WTF Do I Know is typically a rhetorical question, or a sarcastic one even, I think it is also a realization that Miley doesn't know as much about love and life as she thought, and that is the case for so many other people. You can know something isn't a good fit while still admitting you don't know what your ideal version of something looks like yet. This idea is continued in Plastic Hearts, again the album's title track. Miley said that Plastic Hearts was heavily inspired by losing her home in Malibu and feeling displaced not just physically but also emotionally.
One, I was in a really unique position where I was able to rebuild and move somewhere else that I could call home, and that's what makes that situation really unique to me. But I did feel like I needed that because I never would have made some of these choices that it really forced upon me. And so sometimes these things that we don't understand are what ends up really creating who we are.
The song narrates endless nights in which Miley parties, meets new people, hooks up with them in search of substance, in terms of a relationship that is, but wakes up feeling empty in the morning. In search of this feeling, the desire to feel something, she engages in numbing behaviors as counterproductive as it sounds, and she realizes later that it is indeed counterproductive. In the pre-chorus, it seems Miley herself isn't even sure if she wants a genuine relationship because it seems like she too is guarded and self-sabotaging anything that could turn into something. Moving into the chorus, Miley talks about California dreamin', referencing the song of course, but I think it's also used here to show her yearning for an ideal perfect life that she knows isn't reality. It's followed by the line, "Plastic hearts are bleeding," which which I interpret as people performing emotions that aren't necessarily real, like pleading with that partner you know you don't really love to not break up with you or vice versa, potentially out of convenience rather than genuine emotions because you don't want to get into all that. But I also think it can speak to how you can get out of a situation and be so eager to move on from it, you take whatever comes your way next as the real deal when you're really just clinging to it like a life raft. This is probably especially easy when you mix in the partying, the drinking, the drugs, because it's easier to convince yourself you mean something you're saying when you're high. It wasn't geared for radio, which Miley actually mentions on this album, but I think Plastic Hearts is the catchiest song on the album. The melody of the pre-chorus is very slinky, each line slides well into the other before you arrive at that very stilted chorus, and I really love that abrupt change of pace that just hits you.
Me hollow, pull me in, but don't you get too close.
Overall, Plastic Hearts sounds more playful, like you were invited to a jam session with friends and something fun came out of it. There's a little bit of a folky touch to it. On the verses, there's this call and response aspect, as if Miley's mimicking the people she used to go out and party with, enticing her to join them. This reflects that sense of aimlessness in the lyrics, Miley going from party to party, person to person, looking to feel something and find something genuine. The song is fun and inviting, but also unrelenting, and you do leave it feeling a little overwhelmed after over 3 minutes of hearing drums, guitars, claps, and shouting. There are a few other songs on the album, but for both WTF Do I Know and Plastic Hearts, Miley collaborated with Ryan Tedder on the writing, so that might also have something to do with their connection, aside from wanting to make a cohesive album. Plastic Hearts did come on its intended release date of November 27, 2020, coincidentally just a few days after Miley's 28th birthday. The album debuted at number 2 on the Billboard 200, despite physical copies not being available for the album's release date. Miley explained on her Instagram stories, "When choosing November 27th, the suggested date for album release, my team and I were never told major retailers don't stock physical albums on Black Friday and wouldn't get copies of Plastic Hearts until a few weeks after release. Because of this, physical copies wouldn't be available until mid-December, which of course did affect some of those first week sales, and also meant that fans couldn't get their hands on any of the other album art or inclusions for a little while. However, since fans could still stream the album and download it digitally, reactions came in quickly, and it seems a lot of them were positive. Later on release night, Miley tweeted, "My plastic heart is overwhelmed by the support I'm receiving tonight. I was fucking born to make the record I've just released. To my fans who have been here from the beginning, I appreciate you more than I can properly articulate. To anyone I've ever loved or lost, thank you." Critically, several publications rated Plastic Hearts as one of Miley's best albums. Pitchfork and Rolling Stone have ranked it as their best, or it's simply their highest rated of all of the Miley albums that they've reviewed. Writing for Rolling Stone, Claire Schaefer noted, "Unlike her previous album Younger Now, where Cyrus dabbled in a rootsier sound without much substance, she actually has a lot to say on Plastic Hearts. This is a post-divorce record after all, and the only genre that Cyrus arguably does better than new wave rock is classic country balladry." Later in the review, Claire continues noting Miley's recent life events presence on Plastic Hearts, saying, "She ties the very literal fire that burnt her house down in 2018 and forced her to start anew with the creative flame that rages inside her to this day. Cyrus has long drawn comparisons to her godmother Dolly Parton's voice, see her instant classic rendition of Jolene, but here she's finally achieved the Tennessee Queen's knack for telling a vivid story." Metacritic and NME both have Plastic Hearts ranked in their top 3. In the NME review, author L. Hunt made a comparison between Miley's current trajectory and that of Ashley O, a character Miley had recently played in an episode of Black Mirror. It reads, "Overall though, Plastic Hearts finds the pop star turned rock star going hell for leather. And when Miley Cyrus is at full throttle, it's an absolute blast. Life has imitated art, and she's become her very own Ashley O." And if you haven't seen the episode, I think the connection that they're making here is that Miley's character of Ashley, she was being forced to make sort of bubblegummy pop music, but she really wanted to make rock music. And On a Roll is a more cutesy-fied version of 9 Inch Nails' Head Like a Hole, which Miley does actually cover at the end of that episode. But I think in universe, they present Head Like a Hole as an original Ashley O song. Those not as sold on Miley's vision mainly criticize Plastic Hearts for either being too derivative of the artist Miley uses inspiration, or for still being pretty rooted in pop. In his 3-star review for The Guardian, Alex Petritis noted, "Listening to Plastic Hearts, it's hard not to suspect a sense of compromise, attempting to corral Cyrus's diverse interests into something with obvious commercial appeal to avoid the muted sales of 2017's Younger Now, which failed to convince pop fans or lure in the traditional country crowd. It isn't a bad album, but it's far less interesting and more straightforward than the artist who made it." Reading other reviews of Plastic Hearts, and even reviews of specific songs, it really does seem like the heavy presence of collaborations is one of the most divisive things about the album. The album has 12 songs, and not counting Edge of Midnight, which is technically a remix, 3 of those 12 songs have a feature. So let's talk about them. Prisoner, which features Dua Lipa, is actually Plastic Hearts' second single. This is the most pop-leaning song on Plastic Hearts to me, which is pretty predictable once you see Dua's featured.
Why can't you just let me go? Prisoner, prisoner, locked
This may be surprising as someone who's a fan of both Miley and Dua. I can't sit here and act like I don't know every word. I don't enjoy singing along if it comes up on my shuffle, but Prisoner is not a song that I seek out on either artist's discography. And honestly, it's one that I could better imagine being a solo song on Dua's Future Nostalgia, which would have come out a few months earlier. But Dua did put on her deluxe of the album, though. And this makes sense because Dua's in the song just as much as Miley, really, which was their intention, and she was definitely in her 80s synth pop and disco bag at this time, and that's the way that Prisoner leans. I never realized this somehow, but a lot of people have pointed out that the chorus sounds like Olivia Newton-John's Let's Get Physical, similar to what Dua did on her song Physical. In an interview, Miley said that Pat Benatar was the more direct inspiration for Prisoner, though. In the song, Miley and Dua sing about being so attracted to something or someone that after a taste, they're hooked, so much so that they feel like prisoners. I like the production. It's got this dark pop, punchy glam feel to it, but I do think for the most part it leaves me wanting a little bit more. Especially on that second verse where Miley's singing about this almost animalistic attraction to a person. So much that it's perplexing even to her that she can't control the desire. But while Miley's singing all of this, the production feels tame. Not eerily calm, just kind of tame. I feel that way too when Miley and Dua's voices come together. It's like this competing of desire and logic, head and heart. And it actually works as you can distinctly hear their voices clearly, and it just leaves me wanting the production to rise a bit more to meet that. It does seem like Miley wanted a more chill vibe to the song, not necessarily a slow one. I wouldn't call Prisoner a snooze or anything. Though it does beat out some others, it's not the most in-your-face track on Plastic Hearts. Miley said about Prisoner, "We just waited until we felt like, now this is a Dua Miley song. You can just, everything about it reflects us. Some people's charisma is really overwhelming. I see when Dua's around that her charisma, there's no sense of desperation to it. Like, I've got to be the best because if I'm not, what if? There's a calmness to her success, which I really like. Because I feel like you can tell when someone is too much of a survivalist. That I don't like." The music video is both colorful and raunchy, and Miley also co-directed this one. In it, she and Dua play reckless rock stars, continuously on the road and trying to liven up their living on the tour bus. It also kind of makes me feel like the song doubles as them being prisoners in a sense to stardom, the musician lifestyle, but they can't let it go because there are aspects of it that they just enjoy way too much. It's also funny because Miley has openly said that she hates touring and will probably do it as little as possible in the future.
There's a level of ego that has to play a part that I feel gets overused when I'm on tour, and once that switches on, it's hard to turn it off. Having every day the relationship between you and other humans being subject and observer isn't healthy for me.
The song Teasing, the video Mark Ronson and Miley posted months before, turned out to be Bad Karma, which features Joan Jett. Mark kept saying, "This is the most Miley record of all time," and I thought if there's one person who could own this record more than me, it's Joan Jett, because that's who instilled that mentality into me.
Never learned my lesson, so I always do it twice.
Bad Reputation and Cherry Bomb were songs of Joan's that inspired Bad Karma. Both songs describe a young, rebellious woman, one who takes pride in living life on her terms, even to others' discomfort. Both songs also have this theme of modernity and how modern love is often a lot freer but a lot messier. Bad Karma is built around these rumbling, knocking drums that create this unsettling feeling that something's creeping up on you. And you feel as if you'll never know when the other shoe is going to drop, which is essentially what Miley says a relationship with her feels like. And because of her messy ways, she's built up a lot of bad karma for herself.
They say it's bad karma being such a heartbreaker.
Seems like she accepts the consequences though, ending each chorus, "Kiss me, bad karma."
Hey everyone, Karma got his kiss for me.
Joan and Miley's voices blend together very well, with Miley just sounding like a younger Joan at points. Works really well for a song about not learning your lesson ever, because it just makes you feel like Joan's additions to the song are just Miley after a couple decades.
Such a heartbreaker. I've always picked a giver 'cause I've always been a taker.
Hands down, my favorite of the collaborations is Nightcrawling, which features Billy Idol. It's one of my favorite songs on Plastic Hearts overall. And no surprise, Ryan Tedder has a writing credit. He's one of those people where somehow his songs for other artists always end up being my favorites on their album, even before I know that he worked on it. Dark isn't a strong enough word. It's atmospheric, alluring, nighttime personified in my opinion.
I found the meaning, just what I needed. Cut on the bathroom.
This song feels like whirling around on a carousel in a pitch black night, and every 30 seconds or so, a ghoul pops up and goes boo. Nightcrawling is about falling into the night, into that darker, self-serving side of yourself, and finding enjoyment in it. On each chorus, when Miley is actually doing the Nightcrawling, those scents become brighter, like city lights attracting her to the nearest club, like a moth to a flame. It's the thrill, it's the rush, the feeling that you're finally where you want to be. Billy Idol basically owns the midsection of the song, and with his gravelly voice, he sings like this evil mastermind with a shit-eating grin, able to entice people over to the dark side, though it's not hard work. And even though Nightcrawling sounds villainous, I think it's more about marrying the good and bad sides of yourself, and how if you pretend maybe some of those darker desires don't exist, they still spill out in other ways.
Thoughts of violence, sometimes they bring me to the light.
Throughout Nightcrawling, you feel the pressure building as you're nudged more and more to relent until the song bubbles over in the bridge. Towards the end, it almost feels like Miley herself is possessed by the song, by the night, by those choices that may not make up her brightest moments. There's almost this competitive aspect to the song, like you're being asked to rise to a challenge, answer a call, like you're at the end of a training montage of sorts. Nightcrawling is actually the middle song, and what to me is the best 3-song run on Plastic Hearts. We get Gimme What I Want, which I'll get to in a second, Nightcrawling next, and then Midnight Sky after. These 3 songs come in the middle of Plastic Hearts, which to me reads as the actual darkness, the midnight section of the album, if we sort of abstract the track list as one evening that goes over into the next morning. It's kind of how I envision it. Gimme What I Want coincidentally starts with Miley being out past midnight, looking to get into some mess. A bold, blurry bass is present throughout most of the song, along with some kick drums like a pounding heartbeat. Yet on the pre-chorus, when Miley's essentially like, let's stop lying to ourselves, those drums disappear, kind of like the ball is in your court now and it's up to you to pick it up.
'Cause you know what I need, and no one likes to be alone.
So Miley's up for some fun, no strings attached, but also isn't so desperate that she's immediately going to catch feelings, and she's fine with going home alone if this particular person turns her down. Beyond the one-night stand of it all, I think it's clear that Gimme What I Want is more a song about setting standards and boundaries for yourself, and realizing it's better to just have your own bag than to expect someone who can't meet you where you're at to do that. Because in this song, Gimme What I Want is always followed up with, or I'll give it to myself. At some points, that line carries over into the next, so Miley's actually singing, give me what I want, or I'll give it to my self-inflicted torture. You don't have to ask.
So give me what I want, or I'll give it to myself.
Which I also read as, even though other people can upset her, get her bothered, no one is her biggest ally, no one is her greatest enemy in the way that she herself is. Because of lockdown, of course, there was no tour to support Plastic Hearts. Like several other artists, many of Miley's album promotions were doing things like video interviews to talk about songs in the album, or other virtual performances, especially wrapping up 2020. And a lot of the in-person performances, for example, her performing at the VMAs, while still fun to watch, you can definitely tell that it's a smaller production and she's completely by herself, like the other artists were when they performed. Miley did, however, record another series of backyard sessions of several Plastic Hearts songs and some covers for MTV Unplugged. She was joined by Andrew Watt for her Plastic Hearts performance, and he produced the majority of this album, with credits on every track but 3. It's a laid-back sunset concert, and you get another version of the songs with all the rock-heavy production dialed back. I remember people are really liking these and saying for this era overall, not just the sessions, that this is the time where Miley seemed like a more fully realized artist to them, rather than just a Disney girl trying to shake off the Disney image and putting on different costumes to do that. Moving into 2021, Miley also did a short NPR at Home Tiny Desk concert, and it's funny because her band is there, but the way that it's shot, it seems like she's mostly just by herself in this comically tiny bedroom to self-isolate. I actually enjoy the arrangement of Prisoner that she does here a little bit more than the original. It's slower, and Miley sounds more defeated and disappointed here, so I like the layer that adds.
Get you off my mind, why can't you just let me go?
Like she's been a prisoner for a while and just can't escape, and I like the layer that adds. I have to laugh because I've seen these performances, but never connected that they were for the Super Bowl because it's not really my arena, but I can read, and the title does say Super Bowl, so I'm not sure what's up. I thought Miley was just wearing the jersey and cheer shells to be campy and fun, but no, she did a tailgate concert the day of the Super Bowl, and I believe TikTok hosted this event. And Miley actually used this performance to shoot the music video for Angels Like You, which is Plastic Heart's final single. Usually, Miley does at least one big ballad on her albums, and typically it's one of the most emotional, vulnerable tracks.
Baby, angels like you can fly down here with me.
In it, Miley describes the feeling of losing a good partner because they weren't the right fit, and feeling a little disappointed with herself because she wasn't what they needed. It's a very heartfelt, it's not you, it's me, as Miley calls the other person an angel and says that she's nowhere near. The emotions here are complex. No, you don't have to be happy with something or someone just because it's the thing or person people think should make you happy. But at the same time, it's wrong to hold on to something or someone who you may not be able to find much fault with, but you know it's not a fit for you, so it's not going anywhere. And usually that's where the destructive behavior starts, and it seems, at least from Miley's perspective, it was something other people around her could see before she saw it herself. She sings in the second verse, "A little more hurt won't kill you."
Night mama says you don't look happy.
It's simple, but my favorite lyric in the song is when Miley sings, "I'm everything they said I would be." It's Miley's admission that maybe other people were right about her, and that a relationship suddenly wasn't going to make her a new person. And I usually took it as a sad, like, oh, I'm a disappointment, just like everyone figured, just like everyone warned you about, which is honestly how it seems like Miley's delivering it. But I think it can also speak to how pretty concrete things about you, like your personality, the career you want, whether you want to move or have kids, things like that. Though those things often don't magically change just because it would make the relationship easier if they did. Miley described Angels Like You as one of her few songs where she actually is apologetic, and one where she realizes her love for chaos might be a deal breaker in some relationships. Like Adore You, which is on Bangers, Angels Like You is usually a skip for me, but in a good way, because it can hit a little too hard. You've got to be in an emotional place to hear a song like this, and sometimes I'm just like, do I want to cry right now? And usually I don't. Aside from heartfelt songs that focus on heartbreak, Miley also has a few in Plastic Hearts that deal with her relationship with her own fame. Prisoners and WTF Do I Know address it for sure, but something like Golden G-String I find a little more overt, even in its pretty provocative title.
Yes, I've worn the golden G-string, put my hand into L5.
The Golden G-String represents Miley's place in the media, someone who likes to push boundaries and is always criticized either way, sometimes justly, others unjustly. To echo Miley's reflection, the song's got a much slower, folkier feel, as Miley sings about frenzied and fond days past. Despite some of the hate and the shaming, Miley maintains she is who she is and would rather get things wrong sometimes rather than stay in the same box. The song was written a couple years before it was released, and the bridge makes a pretty clear Trump reference.
Madman's in the big chair, and his heart's an iron ball.
Relating to Miley's point in the song, that what a woman wears or does with her life, for the most part, even when it is provocative, is the least of society's problems and kind of always has been. But even if that's true, it's very hard not to internalize that shame on some level because it's so normalized. She sings in one of the verses, "There are layers to this body, primal sex and primal shame. They told me I should cover it, so I went the other way." Sex is primal, but shame really isn't. It's usually cultural, but it is so ingrained in society, in different ways, of course. So we've come to see shame as this natural thing that should exist in some form, or that we should feel if we take certain actions. That Rolling Stone review I mentioned earlier that praised Miley for having more to say on Plastic Hearts actually mentioned Golden G-String as an example. Hate Me is pretty similar in that Miley expresses awareness of her controversial status and knows that people hate her.
And the clock, and I know I'm not on your mind.
Because of this, she wonders if the public would act sad if she died, and even wonders how her friends would react. The song was inspired by a stormy plane ride to Glastonbury, I believe, where it was like a near-death experience for Miley, so she was just thinking, hey, actually, if I did die, what would people think? There's a small part of her that would like to be able to see how people would react after she's gone, if for anything but to be able to call them out on how they switched up. But on the other hand, she does kind of worry that no one will say anything because they don't even care. It's hard to determine which is worse, honestly, because you'll never really be able to, but it is also an extreme way of thinking because the truth is probably somewhere in the middle, especially considering Miley's fame, but that's probably the root of her preoccupation.
In a way, getting messed up was a way of me allowing myself to do things that I never really would allow those voices to
The chicken
control.
and the egg.
Exactly. So
Yeah.
I think now my life has been truly changed by the concept that I'm not the voice inside my head. It's explained in the book is you would never hang out, if those were physical beings, you would never hang out with the voices
They know
inside
your
your head.
friends.
They never stop. When you're watching a movie, well, did I turn off the stove? Did I whatever? If your friend was in there like, did you do this today? Did you put a gas in the car? You'd be like, shut up.
I think that's a big part of why I like Plastic Hearts, though. There are a lot of ruminations on the album that can come off as selfish or self-obsessed, but they still feel pretty human, at least to me. This is because we have several songs or even moments in songs where Miley is like, yeah, I messed that up, or yeah, I'm doing something stupid and fun now, but I'll be paying for it later. I really like when an artist says that they're going to release a vulnerable project and you do actually see them turn that mirror on themselves and be like, you know what, I really can suck at times, but of course they do it in a more poetic, pleasing way. For as many moments and popular clips that came from this album, Plastic Hearts has earned the reputation of being one of Miley's underrated albums now that it's been out a few years. In terms of more pop-leaning music, I do consider Plastic Hearts one of the starting points for the pop rock, pop punk revival that was popular in the very early 2020s. that it feels like we're currently cycling back into. Somehow, despite these viral moments and its potential influence, Plastic Hearts is also one of Miley's few albums that failed to produce any top 10 songs in the Hot 100. The only others being Younger Now and Miley Cyrus and Her Dead Pets, the two albums she released between Bangers and Plastic Hearts. And to be fair, I'll mention again that Miley didn't see Plastic Hearts as a radio-geared album. I do kind of hesitate to say that it was under-promoted, with Miley doing as many live performances, festivals, and interviews as were probably possible at this time, but I also think it could be fair to say that it wasn't promoted to its full potential, and other issues in the rollout, like the Plastic Hearts physicals not being available for release, which is a pretty big oversight. And clearly, people had more things on their mind in 2020 than a Miley Cyrus album, but the pandemic and lockdown didn't necessarily stop artists from having huge musical moments. But still, while it is a curious case, the charts, the numbers don't really impact my enjoyment of the music. There's likely no singular answer, but online at least, it seems a lot of people have chalked out the performance of Plastic Hearts to RCA potentially fumbling parts of the rollout or not supporting some of the singles enough. And Plastic Hearts was Miley's final album, with RCA having signed with them all the way back in 2013 ahead of Bangers. In March of 2021, her move to Columbia Records was announced, and it was said that with this move, she would have more creative control with her upcoming projects. And of course, that suggests that potentially she didn't get as much as she wanted with RCA with Plastic Hearts. And though they wouldn't really know what was going on behind the scenes, probably some of the reviews did say that the album seemed kind of like a compromise between pop and rock. And overall, this move probably was for the better, but it did mean that the Plastic Hearts era was kind of cut short, as Miley left the label only about 4 months after Plastic Hearts came out. And the same day that this label change was announced, RCA's UK account tweeted a reminder that Midnight Sky, which was the first single, was still doing well on radio. No update for Prisoner, but to get a feel, it peaked at number 54 over in the US and at number 8 in the UK. So maybe the UK division was doing a better job at promoting Plastic Hearts than Miley's own domestic team. Either way, I'm not sure if that tweet was them saying they were actually supporting Miley, but she for some reason just chose to leave anyway. It looks like maybe they were replying to a Stan account or something, but I couldn't find the original tweet or the tweet they were replying to potentially because this was a screenshot. And then days after this, so after the news already broke that Miley had left RCA, Angels Like You was released as the final single and sent to radio. So maybe that was something that was negotiated or already scheduled. Regardless, likely because Miley was no longer on their roster, the song didn't do that well on the charts, so it wasn't heavily promoted. Ended up peaking at number 7 on Bubbling Under. And so part of me wonders how much more we could have gotten from Plastic Hearts promotion-wise if the label change didn't happen so soon after the album's release, but the fact that it happened so quickly was probably a sign that more, unfortunately, wasn't coming regardless. As always, thank you so very much for watching. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe so that you can stick around for more. Also, if you'd like to become a channel member and get early access to videos, the link is in the description. And again, thank you so very much for watching. I love you all so very much, and we'll see you so very soon. Bye-bye.